Thank you, Member. The member for Oak Bay, Gordon Head.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Thank you to my colleagues who I rise to take my place in the debate on Bill 5, the Constitution Amendment Act, a bill so complex, so complicated, that the minister, so complex and so complimented, that the member from Vancouver Quilchena felt the need to get a detailed briefing and analysis of it, delaying our discussing of this at second reading until this date. You know, Honourable Speaker, this bill does three things. It amends the definition of leader of a recognized political party in a manner analogous to what the BC Liberals did in the July session that we had here. It adds circumstances when acting ministers may be appointed from the members of Executive Council, for example, if there's a tragic death within someone in Cabinet. And it amends the fixed election date. Now, it's just truly remarkable to hear the righteous indignation of members opposite speaking against this bill when they produced something almost identical in the summer. They claim that there was no consultation. Honourable Speaker, they claim there was no consultation, but both election platforms, both the BC NDP and the BC Greens, campaigned on this. Why did we campaign on it? Well, I suspect the BC Liberals wished they had campaigned on it, because we wouldn't have been in the awkward situation of suddenly discovering a $2.8 billion surplus because of reckless fiscal mismanagement by a previous government. What government, Honourable Speaker, would predict or project a several $100 million surplus and end up with a $2.8 billion surplus, all the while taking mean-spirited policies, taking this position, the mean-spirited position, to not helping those people in our province who need that help most. So, had we had a fall election date, the February budget would have been passed. It would have been passed, and we would have had year-end statements as to, we would know what the fiscal situation would be. We wouldn't have been in this panic trying to pass a Supply Act because of stalling by a government that knew it didn't have the confidence of this House. It knew it didn't have the confidence of this House, so it stalled and tried to rush a Supply Act. Changing the election date to October is a good change, Honourable Speaker, one that we support in its entirety. You know, again, earlier today, Honourable Speaker, we had another example of how this government proposes to work with others, to represent British Columbia's. We saw it as a cynical, petty statement by the member from Abbotsford South. I think it was Abbotsford South, or the relevant Abbotsford riding, who stood up and sought us a ruling from you, Honourable Speaker, a ruling with respect to the ability of members to vote on this. It's remarkable that he would do that. It was nothing more than a petty, cynical ploy that his own caucus, Honourable Speaker, didn't know he was going to do. This is a member who wants to lead a party, yet would do something like that without informing his caucus and expect that there would be goodwill. There would be goodwill from the Green Party members in supporting amendments that they might bring forward on bills. It's disingenuous at its very worst. I look forward to seeing how members opposite react as this member moves forward in a leadership bid, one that doesn't actually consult with colleagues. I found it quite sad, Honourable Speaker, particularly since Standing Order 18 is very clear. It's very clear. No member is entitled to vote, etc. And there's clear cases here. In fact, this legislature in 2007 is required by law to vote on its own compensation. Again, petty, and it's exactly why this government needed to be put in a timeout. It's, you know, coming back to the importance of party status, let's go back to 2001. There's many precedents here. In 2001, Honourable Speaker, the BC Liberals won a majority with 77 seats. There were 2 BC NDP seats. In another mean-spirited fashion, again, a mean-spirited fashion that has even been suggested by a former chief of staff that it was mean-spirited, the BC NDP did not have official party status. They received 21.56% of the vote, 343,156 votes, 2 seats, no official party status, no official opposition. I remember watching the legislature at that time. It's kind of the thing we do. I remember watching Liberal MLAs stand up and ask questions like, Honourable Speaker, my question through you to the Minister of this is, how good are our policies? This is the type of rhetoric we heard back then. You know, back in 2001, the member opposite is heckling and suggesting that our questions are softball. I don't know who writes their questions, Honourable Speaker. Their questions, Honourable Speaker, are an embarrassment to their questions filled with, I love to say this again, righteous indignation, sanctimoniously being portrayed themselves as victims of democracy as they ask and criticize government for doing exactly what they've been doing for 16 years. It's just ironic having to sit here. It's quite enjoyable, Honourable Speaker, to see them. Thank you, Honourable Speaker. In 2001, coming back there, the BC Green Party at the time, I was not a member of any political party then, 197,231 votes, 12.39% of the population. That's 0 seats. And that's fair enough. That was the system we had. But let's take a look at the votes per seat back in 2001. When you take the number of seats divided by the number of the votes, each one of those NDP seats represented 171,578 votes. Whereas to win a Liberal seat, all you needed was 11,908 votes. The NDP were denied official party status, cynically and in a mean-spirited fashion, even though they received 343,156 votes, and each of those 2 MLAs then represented 171,578 votes. That's shameful, Honourable Speaker. It's shameful for democracy, and it's shameful that that was done. The Reform Party had status back in the day with a number of members. Let's go to 2013. Here's another example. 2017. In 2017, the recent election we just had, the BC NDP received 795,106 votes at 40.28% and 41 seats. The BC Liberals had 796,772 votes, or 40.36%, representing 43 seats. And the BC Greens had 332,387 votes, 16.84%, with 3 seats. Now let's have a look, Honourable Speaker. The member from Penticton needs to be careful because we ran a candidate who got 19% in his riding, and he watches she did lose, but just watch next election. Member from Parksville-Qualicum beside her better be careful too, because we know that we had polling data and it was very close there until the last week. They're very chirpy, Honourable Speaker. Very, very chirpy, Honourable Speaker. Very chirpy, Honourable Speaker. They don't like being put in this timeout. It's like the boisterous children, Honourable Speaker. Boisterous children who are misbehaving, you put them in a timeout and you say, take it easy there, but they can't. So they need to be kept there. They need to be kept there for 4.5 years, Honourable Speaker, because they need to rediscover who they are. They need to rediscover what they stand for. Nobody in British Columbia knows. They don't know what this party stands for. Everybody and his dog is running as leadership of this party. Nobody knows who's going to be leader. Nobody knows who's running the show. And by listening to question period, Honourable Speaker, listening to question period, they need to discover who they are. Again, the righteous indignation portrayed as they hurl abuse at the Minister of Transportation for not bringing in ride sharing. It's just remarkable. It's remarkable to sit here and listen, knowing full well that they had 7 years to do it, but they didn't. In fact, the Minister of Transportation at the time told British Columbians he was going to, but got soundly smacked down by perhaps the Premier's office, perhaps the Minister of Finance then, and they backpedaled on it. So again, there's no credibility there, Honourable Speaker. There's no credibility, which again, coming back to the bill, is why it's so important to actually give the official opposition party status here in the BC legislature. You know, coming back to the votes per seat, the member from Penticton is chuckling. I did enjoy being with the member from Penticton on the Finance Committee. We had some fun there. It's, I take it in good spirit with the member from Penticton there. So, Honourable Speaker, coming back to the votes per seat in 2013, again, this is important. To win a BC NDP seat, given the number of votes and the percentage there and the 41 seats they won, you needed 19,393 votes. To win a BC Liberal seat, you needed 18,530 votes. So each BC Liberal over there represents 18,530 British Columbians who voted BC Liberal. Each BC NDP seat over here represents 19,393 votes. Now, each BC Green vote, Honourable Speaker, represents 110,796 votes. 110,796 votes. 3 MLAs, 332,387 votes. Now, we know, based on our amount of email that we get, the calls we get from across the province, is that British Columbians don't believe we have an official opposition, because all they know what to do is play politics. They're not raising issues. They're with a game of politics. Got you this, got you that, accuse you this. They have no ideas. They're out of touch. And they're navel-gazing as to the direction that they want to go. We are acting, Honourable Speaker, the 3 MLAs, as the conscience of British Columbia, holding this government to account while they navel-gaze, while they ask the pitiful questions in question period, while they abdicate their responsibility to offer solutions. And here we stand. So obviously, it is not only fair, Honourable Speaker, it is the right thing to do to recognize that the 3 BC Green MLAs are the political party. We ran as a political party. We got elected as a political party. You know, in Prince Edward Island or in New Brunswick, 1 Green MLA. 1 Green MLA was given party status. In British Columbia, 3 Reform MLAs. I think it was 3. Two NDP MLAs were not, the NDP were not given party status. Now, I would encourage members opposite, who don't know what they stand for, to actually get together and figure out what groups of you stand for. And maybe we might see a BC Conservative Party emerge when the new leader, of the BC Conservative Party now, or the Liberals, they call themselves Liberals, will be Diane Watts. It'll be wonderful to see that party break into 2, because that's really what they are. Nobody knows what they stand for. The party has been driven out of the Premier's office for the last 4 years, with MLAs not knowing what stands which, MLAs waking up, listening to a throne speech after campaigning on the doorstep, saying, we can't afford this, we can't do that. I mean, there's no morals, there's no principles. It's lost touch. So again, it's why it's so important that we come back to the fact that we get party status here in the BC legislature. You know, one of the things, Honourable Speaker, in this bill, which we haven't touched upon yet, is the allowing for the appointment of acting ministers in the case of a death of another member. I caution government that there isn't a provision here. What happens if the entire cabinet were to die? That is not covered in this legislation. It would be a tragedy, but there is a loophole there that we need to perhaps consider closing, because it's only if one or 2, but not the entire cabinet. Heaven forbid there was an earthquake at 10:10 on Thursday, October the 19th, and the cabinet would go. So there is a small change there. Again, this is a very complex piece of legislation that required a detailed, thorough analysis and briefing by the member from Vancouver-Coolchena, who found it so complex. He needed the extra week to think about how he could understand it. I mean, again, one could be somewhat cynical as to the delay in debating this bill, but I wouldn't want to go there, of course, Honourable Speaker. No, that wouldn't be right. There's other things in this bill, Honourable Speaker, it's such a complex bill. Such a complex bill. We've got the appointment of if someone dies. We've got the fall election date. Now, members opposite are all in a fury, all in a kerfuffle about the fact that it's October. 4.5 years. It's actually only 4 years, just in case they really care. If the members opposite had actually got their act together and recognized they did not have confidence of the House, it would be 4.5 years. It was only 4 years, actually, Honourable Speaker, because we weren't actually able to put this agreement together until the end of the summer, July, because we had to wait month after month as the BC Liberals tried desperately to hang on for power. And therein lies the key, Honourable Speaker. For the BC Liberals, it is about power. It's all about the game of politics, the quest for power, and the cynical aspects of politics. They're not interested in good public policy. They're not interested in that. They're interested in power, whatever it takes, say whatever it takes. And that is what is so sad, Honourable Speaker, about this political party. And it's why they need to be put in an extended timeout, so that this government gets a full 4 years. 4 years. 60 what? 16 years. Oh, well, that's an interesting idea. The member, I do apologize, I forgot which riding. The member from Maple Ridge Mission. The member from Maple Ridge Mission has suggested, and I do believe he has onto something here, Honourable Speaker, that this party opposite might be put in a timeout for 16 years instead of just the 4 years that they're being put in. That might be Oh, they are so very, very chirpy today, Honourable Speaker. You know, I don't think I need to belabor this. The member from Kelowna Lake Country is applauding the arguments being raised here, the compelling nature of these arguments, and thanking for an articulate representation of why Bill 5, Constitution Amendment Act, needs to pass. Obviously, we'll be supporting it. We look forward to supporting it, and we thank the government for recognizing the importance of recognizing the third political party. We do recognize the Liberals did offer this to us back in the spring, but we agree with the BC NDP in this time that it is important. If you run as a party, you be recognized as a party, because ultimately that's what our democracy is all about. Thank you.